Greg Boyer in
Hey, am I showing up yet?
Yes,
You are.
you are there.
Yes.
How's
Yeah,
everybody?
absolutely. We are absolutely doing great. Actually,
man.
I shouldn't have introduced you because what I should have done is this.
On the trombone, Mr. Greg Boyer. Warm it up, Greg. Warm it up.
That's what I should have done. That should have been your intro.
Yeah, that's a good way to walk through a door. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Now Facebook will kick us all off because it displayed copyrighted music on Facebook. So,
Yeah.
it's all good. It's a good. How are you doing, sir? It is an honor to have you in the house. Actually, I need to change this view, man. We want to look at you and none of us. How are you? Well, it is an honor to have you in the house, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only, Greg Boyer. I don't know. We don't normally start this late for interviews, but I'm glad to actually get you on,
Right.
because man, it is an honor to have you on. I mean, your career is extremely well versed, and you've done quite a bit. I mean, obviously a lot of people here who are massive Prince fans know you from your
From
work
ice cream.
Ice cream.
That's an interesting story, but we'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
The ice cream.
Yeah, we definitely got to get the ice cream story. Rob put that in notes. We got to get back to the ice cream story for sure. But I want to talk, you are, a lot of people don't know this, but as well as trombone, you are also a multi-instrumentalist. And what are some of the other instruments that you were like really, really good at? And Rob was we were kind of prefacing the show. Rob was kind of telling the story that you like to take instruments to the house and actually dissect them. And
Yeah.
So tell us all about this.
Well, my grandfather was an electrician, which probably had a lot to do with the reason why I like to find out how things work mechanically. And I was curious about other instruments, man. I would, kids don't practice. I would just take their instruments home, learn how to play them. And where they had rubber bands on the clarinets or whatever, I was like, you don't need that. Just put the spring back on. And I would sit across the band and look at the clarinet section, and the person whose clarinet I took is looking like some kind of instrument fairy just came down and fixed their horn, and I'm just snickering my ass off, right?
Wow.
So what are some of the instruments that some other instruments that you're really, really good at playing?
I'm probably only good at playing trombone and bass right now. I learned how to play all of that other stuff, but I haven't touched it in years.
So
I made it my mission to learn how to play every instrument in the band before I graduated from high school.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you actively played other instruments with other bands before? I mean, obviously you're known as one of the greatest trombone players ever, but was there ever instruments that you played actively in a band other than trombone?
Yeah. My first gig was on tenor sax when I was 15 years old. And right around the same time, I was playing trombone in the high school big band. I was also playing bassoon with the concert band and tuba. I was playing bass in church and taking piano lessons and dreading every second of it because it was right around the same time that we used to play football in the afternoons. So,
so
you were getting a workout carrying around a tuba anyway. So
yeah,
we have in my neighborhood, our school, the middle school, is actually walking distance from our neighborhood, and so they don't even send the bus over here. There's a point to the story, and so the kids have to walk from our neighborhood over to the school because they will not send buses over here.
Yeah.
And there's this kid that lives in a neighborhood that plays tuba, and I had to watch him carry that tuba up this long hill all the way over. It's like, certainly they need to send a bus for this guy.
Yeah.
Just for him.
Like, I always feel bad for it's like, do you want to help? I don't want to offer to help you because I really don't want to carry that thing.
Yeah, I really had cargo before I had a license. So I was always bumming a ride with parents, family members, hey, can you pick me up and take me to whatever concert there is? Because I don't drive yet. And that might have been the catalyst behind, we need to get this little motherfucker a license real quick.
Or at least a smaller instrument.
That's what I tell that kid every day. I said, you need to switch to violin. Is what you need to do.
I'll get to the harmonica. I'm good.
Right?
Okay.
So like, who is your go-to for, as a trombone player, who are you watching that's like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do? How did you even get into playing trombone? Was there somebody that influenced you, or, I mean, who would you go to?
Rusty McKeon and Jeff Davis. They were the trombone players in the band I was playing in, and they would routinely miss this note on this song called Colonel John, and it drove me knucking foots. So I said, I'm going to go home, learn how to play trombone, and when I come back to school the next day, I'm going to show them, look, you some bitches need to play an A natural and not an A flat. I'm sick of this.
Actually show them how to play it.
Yeah. And they never missed a note again.
Play it right.
Yeah.
So that's part of why I heard you talk about the fact that you got perfect pitch. So it's not a blessing necessarily; it can be a curse.
Yeah, I mean, I thought everybody had it. My band teacher told me, he say, class, what is the difference between this section and that section? I think he was trying to get them to say the key change, because you don't know the word modulation when you're in 5th or 6th grade.
Right.
I said, it went from B flat to E flat. And he said, what's this? And you start playing on notes. He said, you have perfect pitch. I'm like, BFD. I didn't. I thought everybody could do that.
They're all like, show off.
Right? Everybody was like jealous, and you're like, man, it drives me crazy because you can't play it right.
Well, I don't think they would know, because they didn't know what it was either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal. So you began work with Parliament Funkadelic, and that is, I've got George Clinton Funkadelic stories. I'm not going to tell them here, but I know that you played with Parliament Funkadelic from 1978 to 1996.
Yeah.
And even I have seen them in concert. Obviously, you've performed with them, so you've seen them. You've been there for many years.
Yeah.
I have personally seen them probably about 7 times, I think 7 or 8 times in my lifetime.
Whoa.
And I am, I've seen George do some pretty crazy things on stage.
Like come out of the mothership with absolutely nothing on but sunglasses and a wig.
we were talking. Were you present? Were you present for that?
Yes, I was. I turned around and I like, I can't unsee this. But at that point it was like, oh, that's just George. Is no big thing, kind of. And
that's when perfect vision becomes a curse.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and I had heard the stories about Sly Stone joining Parliament Funkadelic for like a really, really brief period of time, and Sly Stone was at the bottom of the stairs of the mothership at one performance, and George came down in a very similar state, and Sly turned around, and it was like almost right in his face, and I think that was pretty much the end of Sly performing with Parliament. It was like, okay, we're done here. I am. Yeah. This is not going to happen anymore.
It's Sly, so it's probably some other contributing factors that are probably of renown. So,
he may be remembering it just a little bit differently too.
Yeah.
He's got his stories, but yeah, I
have to be real careful too, because I want to be a hotbed of some inside information, but at the same time, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Right, of course.
I'm treading lightly here.
Yeah, I was saying that I had some amazing George Clinton stories, and I was talking about the fact that I had managed to be got a press pass to cover Parliament Funkadelic and Yo Mama's Big Fat Booty Band in Athens, and watching him take a joint from somebody in the audience, like a random person that he'd never met before, hands him a joint and he fires it up. I happened to get a great shot of that, by the way. And I was thinking to myself, first, you don't even know this guy. It's like, some of the things, some of the antics that he would do, it's just like he was almost like he was indestructible, or he carried himself like he was indestructible. I mean,
Look at him now. He's 80 years old, and he's a picture of health. Yeah,
Right.
he's indestructible. I think he's going to outlast cockroaches.
well, now in that he does have a chair on the stage now, so he does sit quite a bit,
Yeah,
which is fine.
the
You're 80 years
random
old, you
joint
deserve it.
thing, that was nothing. Shoot, when I first got in the band, people would just throw joints from the crowd. It's just like raining paper. It almost looks like they didn't like the band, but it was all it was all twisties, and you just light one up, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. But the one in the strawberry papers I thought was a little bit better than that one. You really didn't have a fear then. You kind of had a trust in the audience that you could just pick up a joint from off the stage and just burn it right there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The first time I met him, and you're right, he does have his energy level is totally different. The first time I met him was in 90, I don't remember, it was in the 90s, and it was Return of the Mothership. No, I'm sorry, it was P-Funk All-Star Show. Bootsy Collins came. It was at Atlanta at the Fox Theater. You were probably there.
I probably was, yeah.
And it was George Clinton and Bootsy Collins made an appearance, which was a really, really big deal that Bootsy was there.
Yeah.
And I happened to have backstage passes, and got an opportunity to go into George Clinton's dressing room, and he's jumping up and down in one spot. And me just being silly, I got on my knees and I said, "It's an honor to meet you." And he goes, "Get the fuck up." But he was just like jumping and spry, and you're right. He's gonna live forever, man. He's gonna live forever. But I mean, so what was the main reason why you stopped working with Parliament? Was it because the lack of touring, or was it what was going on there?
It was several contributing factors. There was an influx of musicians that I didn't quite gel with, and I'm taking a high road when I say that.
I can see that.
And the fiscal responsibilities were really being a bother. Money was sometimey, and even musically, I just didn't like what they had become. I was in the band, 83 and 84, and it was like a well-oiled machine, and it was so far from that by the time I quit. I just said, I can't take this anymore. And I tried to get the rest of the horn section to say, we can make some things happen if we can get out from under this. But I was the only one to leave, and Benny and Greg's decided they were going to stay there and be loyal to the mothership. And I was like, I think I need a bigger boat.
and Greg is still doing it. He's still doing it to this day. I mean, I think he's kind of.
And in fact, I just got back with them this past June.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For the third final concert tour.
This is actually
third final.
Yeah, however long it lasts. But
I say that with kind of because he did his final show. He was like, this is it. I'm retiring. We're done. And we went to go see him in Cobb. I was like, all right, this is going to be the final time we're going to see George and Parliament Funkadelic. We saw it and was like, great. All right, we saw it. It wasn't that great sound wise. It was like, oh, it's great again. And then all of a sudden he had a second retirement. Okay, I'm never going to do this again. And he did it at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and I saw him again. I was like, hopefully this is the last time. And then when I saw this new announcement of another tour, I was like,
don't go for it. Don't go for it. He says he's going to retire.
Like, come on now. This is 3 goodbyes.
It's good PR. It makes for, a grandiose, what do you call it? The guy that goes down the street, rah, 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 bingo long, all-stars and Motor Kings kind of thing. It's good to say this is the last time, because now everybody's going to come out of the woodwork because they think it's not going to happen anymore. But you got to think at this point, it's like Lucy and Charlie Brown on the football. So,
they're gonna, why are you still kicking?
Yeah, why are you still kicking? It's like
right, exactly.
I really like what you said about when you're up there on the stage and the audience would throw, things at you guys for you, actually.
You can say joints. It's okay.
Yeah, well,
It's okay. We're unedited here, Jeff.
what I like.
I don't want you to make it sound like they're throwing, Hot Wheels and.
Well, see, that thing you said about the stuff.
It's the fact that you said you would trust the audience.
Yeah.
Because you can't. People don't do that now. You don't trust anything or anyone, and the fact that you said that, your audience was special. You know what I mean? And when you say that, it's a powerful thing. What was one of the craziest things that actually happened from a fan or an audience member on stage? During that time.
They all were.
There's probably stories every now
I
and then.
can't put one above the other, and it was just all one big circus from the time I left the house to the time I came back home.
I can imagine.
That's to be expected. With we were talking about Tales from the Tour Bus and how Bootsy had said that they did this entire show, did this entire concert under the influence of acid, and they just did this entire show and they killed it. And then the lights came on and nobody was there. They had apparently played to this room of nobody, and I was like, "How does that even happen? How do you perform an entire show and then the lights come on and nobody's there, and you're just now realizing?"
No, really, I can see that when you're up on stage and the lights are shining in your face, you can really only see maybe the first 5 or 10 rows.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else you just assume is there. And you could be right, you could be wrong, apparently. But
And even the lighting guys got to be like, "Do they know there's somebody?"
What are you doing?
I mean, unless it's one of those.
I was only supposed to be here for an hour.
Well, somebody said, "Turn the house lights on. I want to see everybody." And then you turn around and look, and there's nothing but like concrete and chairs. But it never
crickets.
got to that.
10 people sitting there in the chairs in the first 2 rows going, "Go ahead, yeah."
Yay.
It's like Doc Ellis with Pittsburgh throwing that no-hitter on acid.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, we all know that drugs are responsible for some of the greatest things in history.
Yeah, I've only done that once, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to do this again."
Acid or
Acid, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, it was a nurse that gave it to me. Says, "Look, it's a tab of purple haze. I'm only going to take half of it, and I got to work tomorrow." And I was like, a friend of somebody in the group, and I was like, "Purple haze?" I was like, "I'll find somebody that wants it." And she says, "Yeah, but if you slip up and take this, make sure that you're around someone just in case you have an adverse reaction." And I didn't. I just ran up and down the bus all night, and I could not go to sleep. Just like ricochet rabbit, for like hours. And
Oh my God, was this the P-Funk bus?
yeah,
They're
aptly
"Sit your ass
called
down."
the mothership.
You called the mothership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it a few times, and the last time was a really, really bad trip. I think I was curled up in a ball on Rob's wife's lap. It was like
she had to talk you down. I remember that.
Yeah, it was like one of those bad times. It was like, "Okay, we're done. This is." Yeah. It was like, "No more of this. We're done here."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it is what it is.
Wow.
But you were nicknamed Spider-Man in P-Funk. Tell me about how you got that. How you got that nickname?
When the halls are somewhat close together, you can put your foot up on both sides and not touch the floor. So I just thought that was a really fun thing to do. And after a while, I perfected it where I would put my hands on one wall and my feet on the other wall, and I could just walk all the way down. And Maceo tells the story of, he's like, he heard someone call his name and he's looking around and he doesn't see anybody. And then he just happens to look up and I do this thing at him, I'm over top of him. He tells Prince this, and Prince says, "I don't want you to do that here in this building." And I'm thinking he's probably looking at the lawsuit aspect of it. What if I had an oops moment and I just go splat on the floor? I don't think he wanted to be liable. So I was like, okay, if that's what you wish, I'm not going to do Spider-Man at Paisley Park.
Yeah, he's also a very superstitious fellow too, so he gets weirded out by that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I see a lot of comments in the chat room of people commenting on some of the things you're saying. So people in your chat room, if you have any specific questions for Greg, go ahead and get them out there. I'll make sure that we post them up here so that he can see them. So if you got specific questions,
I have to say that somebody mentioned Lisa Loeb a minute ago. For whatever reason, my windshield cracked, and I jokingly posted a picture of the crack and said, "I'm going to hire. I got a gig for Lisa Loeb." It went over a few people's heads. They were like, "Really, Lisa Loeb?" Not knowing, and I'm going to say this for anybody that's watching that doesn't know. She's in the Geico commercial singing, "They say I got a crack in my windshield."
That's awesome.
it would have been great if she would have saw it. That would have been great.
Yeah, right. I've grown to be quite the smarty pants in my old age, man.
Yeah, we all have. So then you moved from Parliament Funkadelic over to Maceo. How did that transition happen? And well, we'll get into the deeper questions.
I was sitting in with Fishbone.
Oh,
they asked me to
Fishbone
to go out on the road with them. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because now in between all of that, there's some overlap with Chuck Brown. So I started playing with Chuck Brown in '89, and I still play with that band up to this day. But we all had an agreement that if I had to go out on the road with anybody, that I'd be okay. And when I got back home, I'd be in the band again. So I was doing a lot of gigs with Chuck Brown and a whole bunch of stuff. I turned the Fishbone gig down, but they said, "You're more than welcome to come and sit in with us." When we played in the Bayou in DC, they happened to be opening up for Maceo. And I sat in with them, and they was like, "Wait a minute, I didn't know Fishbone had a trombone." So they came out of the dressing room and looked, and he saw me. And, Maceo, now we go way back, to the days with P-Funk. And he said, "You want to sit in on a song?" I said, "Yeah." Then he said, "You want to do 2 weeks in Europe?" I said, "Sure." Then he said, "You want to do 2 more weeks?" And that turned into playing with him all the way up until now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I just
but so much of this stuff, it's not like you're the best. It's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. And when that time comes up, you just need to be ready. That's it.
I mean, but think about all the legends you've played with, though. You played with Maceo, the legendary Maceo. You played with the legendary Prince. You played with the legendary George Clinton. I mean, hey,
Graham Central Station and Gap Band.
I mean, I know we could go down the whole resume if we wanted to, but holy cow, dude! You were that just
Stanley Clark
puts you into the legendary status yourself, man. You have actually shared the stage with, bands that people worship. I mean, have you ever taken a step back and just really just reflected on just how blessed you've been in that aspect,
or how you've blessed them?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Well, once they hit the pinky ring, they're good. So no, but
I could see it.
I got to take this all the way back to when I first got in the band with P-Funk. These guys were my idols. I was like, I knew all of the songs, and I was a big fan of all of the artwork on the album covers. As a matter of fact, Pedro Bell was one of my favorite members of P-Funk. And I'm out there on the stage, and then George comes to sound check, and I'm going to meet George M.F. Clinton. I walked up to him, and he said, "Hey, fellas, I heard you guys' new horn section." He was just so human, so affable. And I knew at that point that all of these people that are pedestal worthy or whatever are just regular folks deep down.
Yep.
Once you get them away from the crowds and all of that, people talk about Rick James, for example, as being this really outlandish guy. Away from all of that, when he was just James Ambrose Johnson, he was as cool as a bucket of ice. Really. And you don't see that side of these folks. And knowing that they have that just kind of, it doesn't it kind of takes all of the hoopla and fanfare off of meeting these people,
Yeah.
except
Yeah.
Pam Greer.
Right?
Wait, you met Pam Greer?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Tell us
That's
about
his story.
that.
You probably need to know just how well do you know Pam Greer?
Yeah, I need to hear this.
Not that well. No. Okay.
Still listening.
Quick story.
Okay,
We're
good.
playing in Denver. She lives in Denver. And the promoter at the time was also managing the band, is good friends with her. So we're up there doing Knee Deep, and I'm singing something about the music, Freak of the Week, la la, you know the lyrics. And someone says, Pam Greer's in the balcony. I take a disposable camera. I'm running through the crowd like it's 4th and goal with 3 seconds left. And I get up to the balcony, and she's sitting there, and she's holding the promoter's brand new baby. And I say, hey, Pam, says, hey, my name is Greg. I'm in the band. She says, I know. Okay, get your composure quick. I said, look, I'm working. So I just want to know if you would oblige me with a photo. And she said, sure. I said, okay, appreciate that. Then I got to go. And so she takes a picture. And I'm sitting there with Pam and the little baby right there that looked like it could have been ours. But and I take the picture and I say, hey, thanks a lot. Feel free to stick around after the show or whatever, if you feel so inclined. She said, sure. So then I go back through the crowd. Only this time they don't see me. I'm running at them from the back because, so they really pissed at me that I'm knocking their asses down trying to get back up on stage to play this horn part. I get the picture developed a week later. The flash didn't go off.
Oh.
I see her on the Capitol Jazz cruise about 20 years later, and I reminded her of that. And she says, well, look, you need to get a picture now while you know you can. So I have a picture with Pam Greer.
Nice.
Wow.
I've told the story. You can never trust those disposable camera. This had nothing to do with the disposable camera, but I told the story about when I was at an after party with Prince. He came down the steps and I had managed to sneak a disposable camera in my bag, and he came down the steps. This was at this club called Opera, and I reached into my bag and I slowly pulled the thing out and I went click and I put it back in my bag, and I still to this day have no idea what happened to that camera. That would just be an amazing picture, and for some reason I don't know what happened to it. Yeah,
that's funny. I used to watch Trevor, who was his I guess his bodyguard and his assistant or whatever, would give people holy hell for having cameras, recording equipment. One of those people, what, you have a camera? Give it here. Down on the ground, smash it.
Oh, come on.
Like he's at Connie Corleone's wedding or something.
That's just insane. But I do want to talk. We obviously have tons of, as you can see behind me, and obviously we have tons and tons of Prince fans. We definitely want to talk about your relationship with Prince, because that is actually the core reasoning why we had a couple weeks ago we had a meeting with NPG.
Yeah.
We had Tony M, Levi Ceaser Jr., Mike Scott. Who else was? It seemed like they were missing somebody. Was somebody else that was on the show too? We had
was Morris on it?
Yes,
Morris. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had all four of them on, and we were talking about the 90s version of NPG, and we wanted to actually talk about the 2000s version of NPG, and essentially what really had changed with Prince between obviously the naughtiness of the 90s with Prince to this all of a sudden this newfound spiritual guy that we're kind of witnessing. But before we get into that, though, I do want to talk about how you transitioned from Maceo to Prince. And from what I understand, Maceo suggested you to Prince when he was coming over to play with him. And how did that story all pan out as far as your transition over to playing with Prince?
Well, how Maceo got in was Prince was doing a session and was trying to get the sax player to, play such and such like Maceo. Everything was like Maceo. Then he had the genius idea of going to get Maceo.
Right.
So, and the condensed version is he saw us playing together and he didn't want to break up the chemistry, so he said bring the trombone player too. Now, once Maceo got there, and he says, "Oh, by the way, this guy does arrangements and all this other stuff. Is more than just a trombone player." I was like, "Yeah, you told him that." I said, "No mention of my driving record, though, right?" I said, "No." Okay. So, and that's how that started. I was in charge of cataloging all of the horn parts because Maceo would go on tour, and he would be replaced by Najee, who would be replaced by Mike Phillips, who would be replaced by the return of Eric Leeds. So somebody had to chronicle all of this stuff. So we had to sit there and guess these notes. Oh yeah, Candy Dolfer was in and out also, because she's a rock star in her own right.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a box downstairs in my garage of all of those handwritten horn arrangements that
Wow.
Prince decided he wants to use another horn section. The guys from Grupo Fantasma out of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to use them. He says, and send me all of those horn arrangements. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I sent them to him. He's called me up a week later and says, I'm going to put you on a plane and come out here because I can't decipher this stuff.
Right.
So it's called job security.
Yeah. Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I read about Prince, and a lot of people don't know this, is that he obviously knows how to write. He knows where all the notes are, but when it comes to actually reading sheet music, he's not. That wasn't one of his forte. It's not a big focus, but I think one of the interviewers had managed to get that out of him. The interview that he did, that he obviously knows where all the keys are, and he knows exactly where everything is on the piano and the guitar and everything. But when it comes to seeing it in sheet form, he's just it's as you said.
Now one of the very first sessions I did with him, this myself, Maceo, and Candy, we go in there and finish this song, and we're going to take a break. Prince says, I want to write a little something for this next song. I was like, okay. So I want to see this, because I've heard the rumors that he didn't know music, but he could be doing one of those things where I'm only going to let certain people know. He gets a legal pad, 11 by 14, yellow paper, and in green highlight magic marker, he writes help. And then he drops it on the console and just starts walking out. So I pick it up and read it, thinking I'm going to see some kind of musical idea or whatever. I looked at it and I just started snickering. And I turned and looked at him. He just looked over his shoulder, just like,
I just winked at you. Oh,
and see, that's what I mean by you don't see people in their natural habitat. He was an absolute prankster.
Oh yeah, no, we've always heard the stories about him. Now, in regards to your writing, though, I'm curious about this, but I wanted to ask you this before. One Night Alone, Rob and I agree that One Night Alone tour was one of the best concerts that I'd ever seen from Prince, and I've seen Prince many, 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 many times. And I was always, I think one of the things that was so cool about some of the horn arrangements and things is just, I always wondered who exactly wrote the horn arrangements. Were you responsible for, like, let's just take Xenophobia, for instance. Were you involved in the horn parts for that song? Because that song is fantastic. You weren't.
That line is all Prince. Now,
really,
a lot of those lines were Prince lines, but what he couldn't do was break it down for the section. It's like, okay, maybe if you play this harmony, or if you play this, and he couldn't manage the section because he knows nothing about horns except for he likes what he likes. You put one up in his hands, or up his mouth or whatever, it might be the worst thing you ever heard. So that is not his field of expertise at all. He just leaves that up to people that before me it was Mike Nelson hornheads, and before that Eric and Matt. Mm-hmm. And so he just had this long history of people, and then, like after me it was like Phil Lassiter and all of those guys.
Yep.
So
who's got a great band named Filthy, by the way. If you guys not heard, it's pretty amazing. Philthy, really super funky stuff with Phil.
Oh yeah,
very good.
check it out.
Yeah, he's pretty phenomenal. But yeah, some of the weird stuff that some of the horn sections and stuff that would happen, like he would do this version. There was a Tokyo show where he did his version of Sign of the Times, which was really ethereal. And it's got this really weird guitar breakdown, and the horn sections all of a sudden come out and go ba-da-ba-ba, just like these random hits and stabs. And I've always wondered who exactly was responsible for some of that structure, because some of that stuff is amazing.
Yeah, I think Renato gave us the core line and then said, okay, you guys do what you do, work with this. And it's like, okay. And like even Prince, he would have these fits, like he would do on this Cannonball Adderley tangent, or he would just, immerse himself into some Wayne Shorter. And he would ask me to, throw together, versions of those tunes. Like there might be someone's access a video of us doing footprints on the sound check. Now I arranged that for the horn section.
Oh,
wow. And then we all just take solos, and then Maceo, he was notorious for just like coming off with these little licks that were real simple, but with executed properly with the section would just be like gold. And he was notorious for that. That's some of that old school James Brown stuff, which one of the things I learned from Mace is, it doesn't matter how intricate the horn line is. If it's executed properly, it's going to sound good.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you're still actively playing with Maceo now?
As much as he hasn't played since we all got called home from Europe last year.
Oh, gotcha. So what? If you had to look at your career from George Clinton to Maceo to, I mean, there's a laundry list of the people that you've worked with.
All of them.
I mean, what is one of the biggest takeaways that you've had from any of the artists that you've worked with that you still carry to this day as far as performance is concerned? Because I know that Prince's focus on how you perform and how you carry yourself on stage, to the presentation, to everything, that had to be a huge impact. But is there something specific that you can think of throughout your career that one artist that you work with, regardless of who it was?
Well, Prince, like before we did musicology, we were up in Burbank rehearsing 10 hours a day for months. And then, we went out on the road. Then he's like, okay, I want to tweak this. So he was a huge proponent of preparation. Once things become a habit, then you can't fall on your ass. But also, he was a proponent of spontaneity, like keep things fresh. So we would rehearse the show to a T. You get the sound check the next day. He's like, I want to take this song out. I want to stick this in. And here's what the segue is going to go like. So we're going over it at 2 to perform at 8 o'clock with a meal in between. So with Prince, I think the preparation was what made him far different than anybody else. The preparation and the presentation. Now, on the opposite end of that, you have somebody like George Clinton that would rarely practice at all.
I can see that.
And somewhere in between, you've got the spit polish, Maceo Parker, James Brown, $10 if your shoes ain't $10 fine if your shoes aren't shine kind of thing. And then you've got like Chuck Brown, where the groove is all you need. And if you have enough musical acumen enough to put something on that groove that's not going to destroy it, then you're doing the job. But no matter what those gigs are, and this counts for any of them, once the downbeat hits, you're either prepared or you have really sharp reflexes, and you'll be able to spin on a dime in a performance. So, and I take that with me. I tell people all the time, the music is only part of it. You know, you still have to be on time. You still have to have an instrument or tools that work. You still have to have well-fitting clothes. I say any working musician should have a decent black suit for starters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, just little things like that that they don't teach you at Berkeley. There's like, you know, play the scale really fast and mimic this ghost or that ghost, and we're going to give you a degree. And there's a lot more to doing this music thing professionally than just that.
Absolutely. I mean, because when you look at how tight we are, again, going back to One Night Alone, how tight that show was.
Yeah.
It was very stoic because it was one of the few shows. He was always really loose with set lists and stuff, but that particular show, specifically the beginning part before he went into the Prince piano and microphone portion of that show, was very. It starts here with Rainbow Children, and it goes to this, and this is kind of where it's at. But you know, all the choreography and the outfitting and the stage design that happens with those tours. You know, you're talking about specific suits. Everybody looked perfect the part, and there's got to be a real specific look that happens, and Prince has got to be okay with that look. Did you get to choose your own clothes, or did it give you any issues with something that you did choose, or you know, how much control did you actually have as an individual with that band?
Well, I have to think that a lot of the reason why he had us wearing suits all the time on that tour, because he was enamored with Maceo's band. We were a suit and tie band. And if you were in the rhythm section, you could get away with wearing a vest. But if you were on the front line, you had a suit. And you really put some thought into what tie, what shirt, your shoes. And for me, it was laces. You know, I always had to have laces and socks. That was my own little thing that I felt like that. And Prince saw that, and I think he was like, and when I go back out on the road again, my band will have suits also. So One Night Alone was that, you know, the pseudo jazzy kind of thing. And he just felt like the suits went with it. You know, it's just like, you know, a holdover from Blue Note days of, you know, Miles Davis and, you know, all of those guys up on the bandstand that really had respect. And, you know, Maceo will be the first one to tell you that I think that, you know, even with P-Funk, for all the outlandish stuff that they wore, they really put some thought into what they were wearing on stage. They didn't just come from down the street out from under the car changing the oil and just get up there and start playing, you know.
Well, so in the early days of that, I see some of the stuff I see them wearing on stage nowadays is like, okay, there's no rhyme or reason, but it always seemed like there was a purpose and a specific look that Prince was going for.
Yeah.
To get to the core of what, you know, we were talking about the NPG version of the 90s version of the NPG versus the 2000 versions of NPG. Was there something specifically? Because I remember one of the distinct things I remember, and I've said it many times in the show, was in 2001 at that tour when he said he was no longer going to use profanity from the stage anymore. And because he wanted the concerts to be family friendly, and he changed everything. I mean, even the classics and everything else. Was there anything specific as a band that you, I don't know if that endures the right word, but that you experienced as a result of this newfound spirituality, you know, outside of swear jars and everything, that was really imposed on you as a band?
Well, I think if you were like a barroom brawler or any of those type of people, you had to really tone your thing down, because you know, no swearing, definitely no meat. You know, he had a chef to come in and cook for us, so you had to like close the doors in these arenas because they're cooking hot dogs out there because the concert is getting ready to start.
Right.
And the whole arena is smelling like a baseball game.
Oh my God.
But no, I think that the biggest change was he didn't put his body through as much stuff when in the 2000s as he did in the 90s. He of course was older, but I think if he wanted to, he would have at least tried. But you know, as it turns out, you know, he was an immense amount of pain from all of that jumping around and doing the splits and jumping off the speakers, all that. Excuse me, all those years.
Wearing those high heels
Wearing
all
the
the
heels,
time.
Yeah.
That's just it. When was the first time that you actually saw a lot of the evidence of that pain? I'm not going to dig too deep into this, but I'm just curious. That just happened to come to my mind.
He was pretty good at hiding it. You know, if you sit there and you squint and you look at him with one eye and say, I see you hurting, you don't fool me. Like, he had a cane. The cane was beautiful. And he just had the cane. He just walked with it like, you know, somewhere between Fillmore Slim and Mr. Peanut.
Monocle.
Yeah. The whole thing, man. And he was just real cool about it. And he did a good job of masking it. And I think that, you know, when you just saw him not walking around a whole lot and just not being omnipresent, it was a pretty good guess. Yeah, he's probably not feeling that good. And, you know, that was the other strange thing, too. We would have these rehearsals and sound checks and stuff. And it was like he would just morph up out of the floor. You never saw him enter a room.
I hear that story all the time. He
was just there. You know, he would get a cordless mic and then just walk like some back entrance. And then he'll start, you know, we're down there playing whatever. And he says, hey, can you go over such and such part again? And you don't know where he is. You just hear the voice. You know, it's almost like I want you to build an ark or something.
Meanwhile, he's in the bathroom.
Yeah. So now everybody's looking around and like, okay, who can spot him first? It's like, okay, I see him. He's over there. He's way up in the B or C section, you know, just sitting like almost behind the back of the chair, just giving us orders and what to play and everything. So I think once we found out who he was, then he would come down on the stage and then run rehearsal from there. But I just thought that was the funniest thing. Like, he had little elevators under every seat, and he would just come up out of the floor.
I always hear those stories. Everybody would say, yeah, I was staying there, and all of a sudden I turned around and he was there. And then we heard like Rick, I was talking to some lady at Electric Fetus in Minneapolis, and she was telling a story. Yeah, he used to come in here all the time, and it didn't even look like he walked. It looked like he was floating. And I couldn't find out that he loved those shoes that had the wheels on the back of the heels.
Yeah.
And so what he would do is, instead of walking, he literally would like roll, like he would roll through the record. It was like, this like, you can't even enter a room like a normal person.
Now he had impeccable style. We all know that.
Absolutely,
and, you know, way ahead of the game.
So consistent.
But no way in hell I'm gonna wear anything on my feet that's flashing, blinking, or rolling. I'm not gonna do that. These are some grown ass feet. I'm gonna.
Oh my gosh! You said that. You were quoted as saying that working with Prince is a musical equivalent of being in the fire department. What do you give me details about that?
Yeah, I've said that on a number of occasions. He would just ask you to play whenever it's just, I think I need a band, and it could be 4 a.m. He says, I want everybody downstairs in an hour. We're going to do an after party. I'm like, at 4 a.m, nobody knows anything about an after party. So I'm like, okay. So I got to get up out of bed, you know, put on, you know, my best giggy clothes. And that's the other thing too. Don't change when you get there. Be ready. I showed up at a rehearsal once in breakaway sweats, and he said, we don't do that. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, tomorrow I'm going to wear a suit. He had Trevor to go out and buy me a suit that afternoon. An hour and a half later, Trevor comes in and says, here, put this on. So it just lets you know he was real serious about appearance. And that's what I got from that. Because, you know, when you're at that level, paparazzi is everywhere. They're hiding in trash cans. They had drones before drones were drones. So and you just have to not look like a ragamuffin at any time. So we're doing the thing. Get downstairs an hour, get transportation. We go to some undisclosed location, and there's 1,000 people there. I'm like, how the fuck did they find out? I didn't even know.
Not undisclosed.
Yeah, it's. I mean, is there any
It was
specific?
amazing. That's what I mean, man. It's like, you know, the Bataclan is on fire. You know, go over there and start a bigger fire and then put it out. That's what I meant by it was like being in the fire department.
Hmm.
You know, there was no such thing as a day off.
Yeah, you're talking about those after parties. Some of those nights where they would just go, he would just play forever. He just got done doing a 2.5-hour show, and then he turned around. And we can go back to that too, because I do want to talk about the length of the friggin' shows of George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic, which I still don't friggin' understand to this day. The amount of time these guys play, but to have one of these shows with Prince where he's playing 2.5-hour shows, he takes like an hour break, and then he shows up someplace else and plays another 2.5-hour shows. I imagine you've played your fair share of those types of appearances. Is there one specifically, like the one you mentioned, is there one specifically that really, really stands out where you're like, wow, this is insane that we're like in the basement of this apartment building or something? Is there something?
Yeah, it was. They were all, you know, pretty much. Wow, I can't believe this is happening because, you know, social media wasn't on fire then like it is now. And how he would drop these hints and all of these people got word of it. Maybe it was the MPG club or something. I don't know. But I remember doing an after party when I walked outside, the sun was coming up. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, this is a 24/7 job. If there was any moment in my life where I really knew at that point, that was it.
Man. So you said, wait a minute. Jeff, remind me, when we started the show, he said there was a story that he had to share.
Ice cream.
Oh, about ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
We got to hear this story. I don't want to drop the ball or get at the end of the interview and go, oh crap, we didn't ask him about that. All right.
So Prince, Manny in the elevator, Larry Graham, Tina Graham in the elevator, Maceo's in the elevator, and I'm in the elevator. So I walk in, I look at Larry Graham, who's wearing all white, and I just start saying, I want a Nutty Buddy, and get my sister vanilla cone, and my little brother wants a bomb pop. So I hope you're cool with that. And Larry looks at me, and he is hysterically laughing. He can't believe this. Prince, his mouth is just like, you can't say that to the Honorable Larry Graham. I was like, dude, look at him. He's laughing. I just couldn't believe I was saying that to Larry. And Maceo is like, man, you have lost your mind. Almost a year, I say somewhere between 6 months to a year later, we're doing a video to musicology, and they're laying out the wardrobe. Guess what Prince asked me to wear in that video?
All white.
All white. I was like, oh, you dirty rotten. So anyway, soon after we shoot that video, you know, everybody in the band had a wardrobe case, you know, full of suits, shirts, and everything. And, you know, the word would come out, tonight's color is gold and white. So anyway, he announced that tonight's color was white. And I go out on stage, and it's time for me to take a solo. He just yells, looks at me and yells, ice cream. And from that point on, whenever he wanted a bone solo, he would just yell ice cream.
Wow.
Because if I could borrow from a kung fu movie, I made fun of his master.
Can see it, master.
Yeah. Oh my God. I knew Larry. Well, I met Larry from when I was playing with P-Funk. So, you know, I had known Larry way before, you know, any of that stuff. It was a good 7 or 8 years prior to. So, you know, I knew Larry. I felt like I could say that kind of thing to him, and it wouldn't be an insult. So, and it wasn't. You know, he just laughed at it, and you know, to this day, you know, Larry and Tina and is friends with me and my wife also. You know, we just like, you know, 4 peas in a pod when we get together. And You know, the other thing too was Prince was like, oh, you know, I just want to see how spiritual you are. You know, just, I don't, how much of a heathen are you? Do I need to heal you? And I would drop little hints that, like, look, dude, spiritually, I'm all right. You might want to save that effort for somebody that really needs it.
Right.
And Larry knew, you know, Larry, we would sit there and talk, you know, go over a few things, and he's like, I think that brother's okay. You know, he's not going to fall into the quicksand and the road to pestilence and the den of iniquity and all of that other stuff. He's okay.
Yeah, and speaking of spirituality, I mean, I've heard stories that he used to have prayer meetings, and he used to have different types of. Did you see any of that or participate in any of that, or did he impose that on any of the band members?
He did impose that on some of the band members. You know, I think it might have been, you know, anybody that just couldn't say no. They didn't want to say no. You know, me, I had no's in all my pockets. So,
Right.
But yeah, he did. He would, you know, like go to Kingdom Hall and take some people in the band with him and just, you know, stuff. Yeah, he was. And matter of fact, he even went door to door.
Yeah, I heard the story that him and Larry Graham used to did it together a couple of times. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to get a knock on the door and have Larry and Prince standing there. It's like, even if I didn't believe what you were saying, I'm still inviting you in, and you're
coming in.
But you know, if you living out in Sandhurst, Minnesota, somewhere, and the only thing you know is ABBA, Bee Gees, and Merle Haggard, you probably wouldn't know who Prince and Larry Graham were.
Yeah, probably.
His hands on me.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, man. Some of them old 70s songs, man, I've really developed an appreciation for, you know, some of that stuff. Like Casey and the Sunshine Band. I did not like that stuff when I was, you know, that age. But as I've gotten older, I was like, wait a minute. You know, that thing got a little bit of stank on it. I think I kind of like that. And Dancing Queen was one of those songs.
I have to admit, you're right.
Absolutely.
If you can make a good jazz tune out of it, it's a well-written song. And I bet I could swing the hell out of Dancing Queen and it would go over great.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
That's one of those songs that I can appreciate and love to hear, but I can't sing it out loud.
No, you can.
Well, you can. It may not sound good, but you can do it.
Okay, it depends on what avenue you on. You know, you don't want to be out there in the barrio, you know, singing Starling vocal band or anything like that.
Freaking out the Starland vocal band. I like
You think any of them are listening? I'm not, you know, down in that. I'm just saying it's, you know, it's another kind of market, man.
There was a lot of arrangements. Going on with that band. I'll tell you that right now. We keep seeing these questions about Bonnie Boyer. Stacey Boyer says, I'm black, and I know we don't all know each other, and all like with the same surname aren't related. But did you know Bonnie Boyer before NPG?
I did not know. And I met her when I got with NPG, and she was just laugh out loud, boisterous. And I was like, look, you know, I got to ask, because you don't see many black folks named Boyer around. So, you know, you got family in Philly or over there in East Pennsylvania somewhere. And she said, not that I know of. So I was like, well, you don't sound related anyway. So I just left it alone. I don't think we're related. But, you know, maybe way down or way up in the family tree, perhaps.
Because my wife's surname is Boyer. My in-laws are Boyer.
Wow.
So when I told
Eastern Pennsylvania,
actually they are from Pennsylvania.
See,
there you go.
There's a Boyertown, Pennsylvania, and every year they have some get together where everybody whose last name is Boyer just converges on this. It's kind of like the Sturgis rally of Boyer.
Really? Yeah, we're actually going to be converging this week.
Left motorcycle.
So if you go and watch, are you a Boyer voyeur?
All right, yeah, I don't know. Show's over, folks.
Wow. No, man. Actually, I'm just here for the food.
We're actually converging on Pennsylvania on Friday. We're actually going to be going to Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, so visiting family up there. But so yes, we got some Boyers in the house. Man, there's.
Hey, wait. Hold on a second. You were talking about doing covers of songs, and I when I was doing some of the reading up on this, I saw that you had worked with Mike Phillips on that Pulling Off the Covers album.
Yeah,
and it just got. I want to listen to this, and I it just kind of blew me away. And I know that's kind of popular nowadays. Doing the covers, doing a little jazzy version of the covers or whatever. But there's some great stuff on there. Just the Two of Us, What a Fool Believes. But what really blew me away was Three's Company.
Wow!
I was like, I can't believe that you took this song and made it so entertaining.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to do a gig with Mike Phillips in a couple of weeks. He's going to be doing some East Coast dates, and he
oh my God!
I have a horn section here in town called the Beltway Horns.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and so we just hire ourselves out and stuff, and he's going to get those guys to play with his band, and Three's a Company. Thank You for Being a Friend. That gig is probably one of the hardest gigs I've ever done.
Wow.
Because he just throws everything. It's like taking a 3-foot wide blender and throwing in nuts, bolts, and screws. Everything. It's the whole kit and caboodle. He does hip hop into straight ahead jazz, into a version of pop life that morphs into Groovin' High by Bird. It's just musically, no stone is unturned. It's an unbelievable show, and it's entertaining at the same time.
Wow!
So,
wow!
Yeah. Yes. So Mike Philly is who I refer to as the Bugs Bunny of jazz.
Lots of voices.
Yeah.
How much input did you have on that album? Was it mostly just arranging the? How much input did you have on that?
What's that thing? I can't remember the song off the top of my head. But because I'm old, I draw blanks all the time, man. So, but whatever that song is, he says, "I'm giving you complete autonomy on these horn arrangements." And I was like, "Oh," so I had so much fun doing it. And God, if I can remember the name of that song, I'm gonna
you had to pull up the track list of that.
I was just thinking. I think I got it right here because I was just listening to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, tell us about what is the Greg Boyer Peloton.
And the Greg Boyer Peloton is, I have two bands, and they're like mirror images of each other. The Greg Boyer Peloton is your typical blue note quintet, suits, upright bass, and all of that stuff. But instead of doing all of that stuff out of the fake book and the real book like all those other guys do, I do like covers of Sade, Blondie, Foreigner, Funkadelic, just all kinds of stuff that you would never expect a jazz band to do.
Are you guys touring?
I love that.
No.
Would you?
I would. I would. I can't entertain the thought of going on tour with any of that stuff without some product to promote. So, once the CD is finished, then I can go ahead and say, okay, we need to go on the road and promote this. That way they say, if you really liked our concert, we have some merch in the back. We have some CDs and T-shirts.
Right.
Yeah. But I have another band. The other band is called Pocket Jazz. Now, pocket deriving from that DC go-go pocket, but we don't do R&B tunes. We do jazz tunes. We do Miles, Wayne Shorter, and just all that kind of stuff, man. Weather Report. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, like I said, the mirror images of each other to the point. So, But I Peloton, I got that name because everybody's like the so-and-so quartet, quintet, so-and-so group, so-and-so band. And I was like, what can I call a cluster of people that a name that hasn't been used before? And I reached into my cycling bag and I just called it the Peloton.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob actually pulled up the list here. Here's a song list of the covers.
We got Watching You, September, Flavor in Year, which I Steve, that song.
Fine China. That's a Chris Brown song.
I'm trying to. I can't move this screen.
It's intro, Watching You, September, What a Fool Believes, Don't Ask My Neighbors, Flavor in Your Ear, People Make the World, Just the Two of Us, Fine China, Three's Company, and Keep It Moving.
What was that before Three's Company?
Fine China.
I think that's it.
That's
okay.
it. That's a Chris Brown remake.
Yeah.
That's a great song.
That's funny. I was listening to that song, and I had read a review of it, and somebody was like, "I really like this album, but Fine China doesn't really do it for me." And I was thinking to myself, "I don't know what you're talking about. I love that song." I mean, everything on there is just spectacular.
Fantastic. Alina asks, from what you could see, did Prince have a certain affinity towards female musicians or ever mention if he preferred working with women?
Wait a minute. I'm
basically
Fine China. Yes, that's it. Fine China.
It is. All right.
I'm assuming it's the remake of the Chris Brown song, which is it's one of my favorite songs by him by far. It's such a great tune. Anyways, we will definitely pick that up because you actually get points on that album since you had complete autonomy, at least a song or so. So it's a great album, according to Rob. I'm going to check it out. I did not get an opportunity to see it, but
can you still see me?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Okay, because I'm behind a couple of screens and I don't know how I got there, so I can't see you guys, but I can hear you real well.
All right, let's break out the facial expressions, boys.
Freeze!
Man, oh man, I am having the hardest time. There we are. Okay,
there we are. Alina asked, she said, did Prince have a certain affinity towards female musicians or ever mention if he preferred working with women? I mean, I know that I think that he did. He loved working with women. But was it something that you saw firsthand?
I think, just from being a guy, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but women, they're a better looking band than guys.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
But the look is one thing. You still have to be able to play your instrument, and you got the likes of Rhonda and Candy and Roseanne, R.A.D. period.
Yeah,
those type of people. You're not sitting there and just saying okay for a girl. It's like them mofos can play.
Right.
Rhonda's a force to be reckoned with. Pretty much every single female he's ever had in a band is a force to be reckoned with, from Third Eye Girl all the way dating all the way back to pre Wendy and Lisa with Gail, and I mean just
Gail
has never has he ever had any women in his band that were not a force to be reckoned with. Gosh, he's a monster. Where do we go to get Greg Boyer merch? Good question, Patty.
Let me see. I got this Trom Boyer t-shirts. I wear them all the time, so if you just pull up some pictures or whatever, you can see them. And my website is down. I hate saying that, but it is. And once that's back up and running, then you can get Greg Boyer t-shirts or Beltway horns. It's an interstate sign 495, but instead of putting the name of the state, it says Beltway horns. I have those available.
Well, just so you know, this guy and this guy, Mr. Christopher and Jeff, we both do website development stuff. So if you need any help getting it up, just let us know. We'll help you out.
Problem.
We'll get you back up running. No, but
That's gregboyer.net, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will make it our goal to help you out, get back online so people can get some Greg Boyer merch because you need some extra stuff. So what are you doing now? You said you weren't touring with Maceo because he's kind of been out of the mix since pre-pandemic. What's going on with you now? What are you doing?
Well, still, like I said, playing with the Chuck Brown band.
Oh, that's right.
So even in Chuck's absence, the band is still going. It's Frank Sirius, aka Scooby. He's playing guitar and singing lead. And the cool thing I like about him is he really honors the legacy of Chuck Brown without trying to look and sound like him. Everybody like, I sound just like Chuck. I need that gig. Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need any, as they call, make pretend Chuck Browns. and this guy is unbelievable musician, great player, great singer, does more than guitar, plays keys, and the whole enchilada. So, the Chuck Brown band is still out there. And as mentioned earlier, I'm still doing, I'm back with P-Funk. We'll be doing some dates a date in New York on November 12th, DC on the 13th of November, and Lubbock, Texas, a place I've never been to before, on November 20th.
How far is that from you, Rob?
It ain't close.
Okay.
Nothing in Texas is close. I'm in Arizona, in Phoenix, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, nothing in Texas is close.
No, I drove from DC to LA. I moved out there back in the 80s, and then I drove from LA back to DC. And every time I drove across Texas, it was a day's ride by car, not by horse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Texas
Rob,
is huge.
You have no excuse, Rob. You need to be at one of those shows. It's got to be.
I would love to.
But we're going to be at, I don't know what festival it is, but December 18th, we're going to be out at that new stadium out there in LA.
Oh, nice. Now, LA is a little bit closer. I can go to LA.
Okay.
Yeah, Martin Kimber, who is actually going to be on our show on the 19th, was it? This is the 19th of October. He's from Color Me Bad. Amazing vocals. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Martin Kimber, but he's phenomenal. Amazing vocals. But he's apparently going to be sending you a formal invite on Messenger to join him and the unit as a special guest on November 20th, if you happen to be in that DC area. But yeah, Martin Kimber and Color Me Bad. There's you all remember them, but yeah, and actually Elena says hello from Austin, Texas. So I am like geographically challenged. I don't know how far Austin is from Lubbock, nor do I know how far Arizona is from
Let's assume that you're going anywhere in Texas,
it's a
4 hours is what they refer to as right around the corner.
Right.
So,
it's always a road trip.
Commute.
Yeah. Unless you're going from Austin to San Antonio, that's about as close as two cities are going to get in Texas.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
We did the same thing when we moved out here from Georgia, from Atlanta, and we drove through Texas, and that took forever. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, it was interminable. It was forever.
Yeah, we have a couple more. Yeah. Also, when you said you were moving, you had your U-Haul broke down, if I remember correctly, and you had to drive 20 miles an hour through certain.
Okay. So quick part of the story is this: it was 6 a.m. in the morning. Our U-Haul had been broken down multiple times. We're getting into El Paso, and I can only drive 20 miles an hour because the governor's stuck. And I look up and I see the sign says, highway. We're on Highway I-10. Next 20 miles, one lane.
Everybody's going to be very pleased being behind you.
Why is this happening?
Jeremy wants to know, have you ever met Trombone Shorty?
I have.
Y'all work together, right?
Yeah.
A couple times. Yeah.
And man, my wife is like, she hates any trombone player that's not Greg Boyer.
That's good for you, though.
That's what you want in your corner.
And then she meets the guy, and she's like, he's so sweet.
Yeah, Yeah, the first time I saw him, surprisingly enough, he was opening for the Dave Matthews Band in Atlanta, and I had never seen him. And he opened up, and I was just like, "Who is this guy? This guy's incredible."
Yeah.
Not as good as Greg Boyer, but he's really good.
Well, I'm humble.
Gotta get your pinky ring out.
No, Maceo opened up for Dave Matthews back in '99. We did a 10-day run, and I have never seen anybody play music that intricate and that so far off of the pop grid and have that many, these teenagers were like, screaming and bringing their moms and dads that were screaming also. That to this day, I cannot figure out how that worked. And it just goes to show you can't write a hit and you don't know what's going to take off and what what will. You just can't tell.
Yeah, Dave Matthews he's an alien for sure.
Yeah.
But Greg, I gotta tell you, it's been an honor having you on the show. I'm sorry if there was like a miscommunication on my part or whatever that you ended up getting here late. That could be my fault, but it's all good. I'm glad that we got an opportunity to sit with you and talk with you.
I'm telling you, when you said I was talking earlier, we're going back and forth. I see you on the screen. I'm sending messages and stuff. Only thing I thought of was the wolf on Pulp Fiction. I wish you could have seen me driving. Now it's a little bit rainy out there, but in the slow sections I was going 80.
Oh my god!
Wow. Man.
So I feel really, because me and the clock have a pretty good relationship, so I'm not late for anything. So I really feel bad about this, and my apologies to all of those people that went and watching Below Deck or something like that, because this wasn't happening fast enough.
It was still great. This is a weird question. Cameron asked, "Can you still do a one-handed handstand?"
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I can.
wow, that's nice.
Wow.
You know what? It seems hard, but it's a secret to it. First off, if you put your feet apart, it makes it much easier to do it. Don't sit there and try to do two-handed one stance and just take your arm away. You're going to fall over.
Right.
So spread your feet apart, and then you can do a one-handed handstand. It's it's pretty simple.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. I'll have to see it live. In person. I'll have to see it live.
We waiting for that video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's a voice I use when I don't want anybody sitting next to me on the airplane.
I was waiting for they're great.
Nowadays, I just start doing the fake coughs. I'm like,
No, it was funny. I got on the plane once, and this guy was sitting in my seat. I said, "That's my seat." He says, "I have long legs. I would like this seat." And I said, "Then you should have bought the motherfucker before I did. Now get up." Get up.
oh my
And he
God.
was about a head taller than me, man. I think if we were just getting the scrapping, it wouldn't have been a walk in the park. But he got up. He knew he was wrong.
Right?
Greg, it was such an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah.
I greatly
Man, it was my
appreciate it.
pleasure as well, man. And
Thank
again, my
you.
apologies for letting the clock run off so much. And can you watch this later?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Matter of fact, after this, after it's done broadcast, it will stay on Facebook, but it's also going to be on YouTube, and then the audio version will also be on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, and a vast majority of different places that you can listen and watch. So,
Well, as we call them, platforms.
that's right.
Nice.
Platforms. And
That meant a totally different thing in the 70s, though. But
Some had fish.
and next week we welcome the great and legendary Eric Leeds is going to be in the house with us next week, which is going to be lots of fun. That's going to be, gosh, I don't even know.
you're calling me legendary. Is that going to get me a deal on a new
No,
Ford?
you are legendary.
Are.
Have you looked at your resume? Oh, that's right. You're not impressed with your resume.
Yeah, he's not impressed with himself.
He's not impressed with himself. That's right.
No, not at all.
Hey, you got
No, I
something?
gotta say that my wife always tells me on my way to the gig. She says, "Have a good time, honey." I say, "Honey, I'm going to work." She says, "Okay, don't suck."
Robin, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got something crazy or surprising we could ask Eric Leeds next week? Might throw him off.
Yeah, good
That
question.
you're willing to tell us?
Something crazy.
Something that maybe
Something unusual, something like nobody else, like you might have kind of an insight on.
maybe something that happened between you two on stage that he's it's gonna catch him off guard.
Something that
Like-
won't get him in trouble.
Something
Or
like
you in
that.
trouble.
Something like
Or me in trouble.
Oh shoot. We were I was coming, we were all huddled up backstage, and I was late getting back because I was just out there just taking my sweet time. I get backstage to the dressing room, and we're all huddled in the back, and I see Prince sitting in the corner. He's looking all serious, and the band is looking all frozen. I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry I'm late, man, but I was being held up by security. Somebody was trying to smuggle in some liquid chicken." Nobody in the band wants to laugh because they know how he is about meat, right? But he just looked at me and said, "You have lost your ever loving mind." And at that point, everybody had permission to laugh.
Nice.
So we got to make sure that when Eric's on the show, we tell him that we heard that you were almost arrested for smuggling in liquid chicken.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell him that you were late to our show for the same reason.
We had to bail you out.
Yeah, bond bills, man. What's that guy's name? Max Cherry? Yeah.
Greg,
Oh,
thank you so much for
Another
your
Pam
time.
Greer reference.
I'm glad that you didn't get a ticket on your way to the house. And again, I greatly appreciate you coming on. And it's been an honor having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Hey man, I gotta admit, for a split second there, I was like, "Oh, fuck it." I said, "No, I got to go do this interview, man. Let me go ahead."
We appreciate it. It's been
It was
great.
frustrating trying to do that on a phone on the road. So I was like, I just need to just go home and just make this right.
Oh,
So,
well, I'm glad you weren't sitting in your car watching us crash and burn without you here, because I think we had like one news brief and we had one news brief and one announcement that today is the 31st anniversary of Prince's releasing of the Symbol album, which is 31 years to this day.
wow.
And so, but that was the only two things that we had to talk about. And it was just like trying to stretch that out over an hour and a half. I was just like,
But see, this is where you say, "Don't try this at home. I am a professional."
Right? The rest is a scary
You
story.
guys are obviously good at your job, So
well, you make it so much easier. Thank you so
Oh,
much
man.
for your time, sir.
Thank you. Really.
My
Thank
absolute
you so much
pleasure.
for joining us. Everybody, thank you for hanging. Greg. See you, brother. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Greg. You guys,
What does that? What makes that noise?
it's a Rasta horn.
I do now.
Is that guy?
Yes, yeah.
That
Well,
guy up there.
yeah, and we have a sound effect thing, and it's
That's a good question. What does make that? Rasta horn?
it's called a Rasta horn. And I think the last time we talked about this, somebody in the chat room said, "Oh, yeah, at all the Jamaican parties, that's something that they always play." And I was not aware of that because I was trying to why do they call it a Rasta horn? But yeah, it's apparently.
All right.
Well, the next keyboard I buy is going to have one in it. That's for certain.
Right?
Well, there's tons of other stuff in here too.
I
I won't play any of them.
Yep. Is any of them a shot of Hennessy?
I told you, a bottle of Hennessy. I got you. We're taking care of you.
But only for your birthday.
Okay.
You got to tell us when you
pass,
get it.
by the way.
Okay. I guess it's going to be New Year's then.
New
I
Year's.
got to wait 51 more weeks now.
Well, your LA show is on my birthday, so I'm going to have to come out there and I'll drink the Hennessy for you.
Oh, okay. There you go.
We'll pour one out for you.
Right?
Yes.
I'll pour one out for you.
So
Yep.
when you're in driving distance of anywhere.
I'm holding you to that, man.
Oh, hey.
I'd be like, man, this is some good shit, man. Look what you missing.
This is like a morning show all of a sudden. What's happening here?
I don't know. That bad element, man. And a whole room full of truants.
All right, sir. Good
All right,
night.
for
Thank
real
you
and
so
serious,
much.
man. I'm out of here.
All right. We'll
Thank you, man.
Greg.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
again. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Okay.
Power, man. Ladies and gentlemen.
There it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Greg Boyer. He's heading out. See you later, brother.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.